Forget the melody, forget the notes you're hearing. The bass notes determine the chords of the song. Okay, that's not the complete truth, but I need to exaggerate it to emphasize really how important this is. And when I figure out the chords to a song for someone, I always start with the bass notes, and I often really only listen to them, and then I figure out the chords, and I can tell you the progression once I have the bass notes. The strongest notes you're hearing don't necessarily help you at first to identify the chord. Yes, it's probably from the chord, but which chord? To demonstrate, when you listen to Time by Hans Zimmer, you may hear this melody in the beginning. C, G, B, F sharp. Let's say for the first C that you hear, this could be the root of a C chord. It could be the minor third of an A minor chord, the major third of an A flat chord, the fifth of an F chord, the suspended fourth of a G sus4 chord, the seventh of a D minor 7 chord, the major seventh of a D flat major 7 chord, the second of a B flat add 2, and so on. I think you get my point. It can basically belong to almost any chord, so don't let this C mislead you. It turns out actually it's part of an A minor chord in this case. If I'm playing a C major chord on the piano and the bass player decides to drop to an A instead of the C, now together we're forming an A minor 7 chord. And it doesn't matter what inversions of C I play, the chord and chord quality minor has completely changed. So really, the bass is king. Now the bass gives you a really good start to identify the chords. Of course, it isn't always the root of your chord. For example, if you have the F sharp down here, it may be F sharp minor, but it could also be part of a D major / chord. So it could be the root of the D major in the bass. Or the bass note may not really be in the chord, but very often it is the root which gives the chord its name. The bass note alone doesn't tell you the chord quality, and this is really where other notes come in. And you can, for example, use the C we hear in the first chord. So we listen to the bass, we figure out it's this A, and then we hear this melody, sort of, up here, and then we figure out, okay, it's going to be an A minor chord. Also, it's just about trial and error, right? If you have an A in the bass, and then you play A major, and then it sounds completely horrible when you play along to the song, it's probably not going to be A major. Now, I'm making this sound very easy. Just listen to the bass. The biggest problem with this is you actually have to be able to pick out what the bass note is. And that can be a very difficult skill to learn. And first thing is, it's actually important to have a good pair of headphones to hear the bass in songs. Often when you listen on your phone or laptop speakers, you probably will have a very hard time identifying the bass. Also, for the beginning of Time, the bass is this very distant electric sound, and it's not very clear, which makes it even harder. And when I play here, of course, we have this clear note in the bass. It's very often not a note being played by the piano, but some electronic sound, which makes it even harder. And I would suggest you practice by finding accurate chords to a song that you know, picking out the bass note from those chords and learning the song, and eventually singing along or humming along those bass notes to the actual track. And this will gradually get your ear used to hearing bass lines in songs. By the way, I think women have a tougher time with this because they have to match a note that's an octave or even two lower than what they can sing. And when you're that far away, it's hard to tell if you're singing the same note. So for example, for the beginning of Time, this is the bass note, and then we go to the E. Now you can sing this G, ba, ba, or this one as well, ba, ba. and this is how I would practice. Now, don't get discouraged if this sounds like a lot of work. Believe me, if you take small steps and practice every day, you will get there faster than you think. And if you're looking for a place to start on the basics of the piano, I'm giving you my new course, Piano Fundamentals, completely for free. All you have to do is click on the first link in the description. And I'll see you in the next lesson.